Remember growing up making the perfect mixtape was an art? It would take hours or even days to get the mood just right. It's an art that's nearly been lost in today's drag and drop digital playlist world.
We're four friends of 35 years with many, many mixtapes between us. Join us each episode as we pick a theme, discuss the songs, and build an infinite mixtape. Welcome to the Mixtape Diaries.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Mixtape Diaries. Am I hot? Am I hot?
You're always hot. No, you're
I always hot when I come in, so I like freak.
No, you were perfect.
Oh, I see what you were saying.
Yeah.
My head didn't go there at first. Yeah. We're back with another episode, ladies and gentlemen. It's a cold day in February. I had to shovel my way back into my driveway coming back from vacation. So I'm glad to be sitting down with these three and having something to smile about as I confront the end of winter.
It's cold here today as well. It's quite chilly. I was wearing a down puffer jacket yesterday when I went to the farmer's market.
Give me a break. What was it, in the 50s?
No, I love having this conversation at the beginning of every.
We fall into this track every damn time.
We do.
Need to mix it up.
We love to talk about the weather.
Well, it's because all of our weather is, like for Brad and I, it's winter. For Mark, it's always
it's
summer.
winter. It's winter.
Whatever. But for Carla, like, you've had screwed up weather the last
No, we really
couple weeks.
haven't. We've had awful rain. We had flooding rains 3 days last week. It was pretty bad.
Yeah. Well,
And it's been in the 30s. It's been unseasonably cold here.
did you guys get some snow and ice just a couple weeks ago, too?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, we
that's
had
unusual.
a full-on snow day back in January. It doesn't happen often.
We've become our parents. We're talking about the weather.
We have.
No, it's
Jesus.
crazy. It's one of the things you got to do.
We need that Geico guy to tell us how to have a
Not to be our
conversation.
parents.
That's right.
I got something for you. I ate 86 hush puppies in Hilton Head over the past week.
Oh, I thought you meant like in one sitting.
I just kept packing them away, man. I'm basically a hush puppy with arms and legs.
Wait, the slushy or the?
No,
The
that's
slushy is a
puppies.
slush puppy.
Oh yeah, sorry. I thought it was a hush puppy.
Either way, if he'd had 86 slush puppies, that would have been incredible.
That
would've been-
his teeth would be blue right now.
But 86 hush
Bluer,
puppies
yeah.
is also. Do you have
impressive.
like, some coronary artery disease now or something?
I can grab hold of my gut and like wring it out like a chamois. And oil drips down to the floor. That's how we make bacon around here.
That's quite
took
an image.
This took a turn.
It really took a turn.
Yeah.
Oh,
What listeners
Brad-
we did have are gone now.
Well, Carla made some bacon this morning with her air fryer.
Did, guys.
Showed it all to us.
Do not sleep on air fryer bacon. But to Bob's point, if you walk away from it for 10 seconds, it's going to be charred.
Yeah.
But it is delicious.
You got to watch that air fryer. I use mine to make buffalo wings all the time. It's fantastic.
I do that too.
Can you tan with that?
An air fryer?
Yeah, just kind of bring it down over your arms, legs.
It doesn't work that way.
You would have to crawl into your oven in order to do so. So
If you can fit inside a 5-quart bucket, then you would probably be all right.
I couldn't even lift my leg over the bike to get on it.
That's what 86 hush puppies will do to you, brother.
I don't think I'm going to origami my way into my own oven, which is probably a good thing.
probably for the best.
Oh. Well,
All right, so we're going to cut all the shit about the weather.
you could if you want, although I think it's kind of funny.
All right.
Why don't you tell everybody why we're really here, though, like where they can find us and all that good stuff.
Yeah, sure. So
Morning announcements, please. Let's get back on track.
We are available where fine podcasts are not sold but provided for free. So you can find us on Apple Music. You can find us on Android, Spotify. Alas, still there. I don't know. There's other things. There's other places you can find us, but I don't know their names.
All those places you love to find your podcasts.
That's right. Our playlist is still on Spotify and on Apple Music. Search for the Mixtape Diaries. You'll find it. You'll be able to play all these songs. Our Twitter feed, our languishing Twitter feed, is at MT Diaries on Twitter. That's all I really got to say, I think, other than go Ukraine.
Yeah.
Fight the fight, people.
Getting
What a
all
crazy
political.
week, man.
Jesus, man.
We don't have Russian listeners, so
До свидания.
Have you, and so it's kind of interesting talking about Russian listeners because today's subject is foreign language songs.
it was so well done.
Brad got the idea this week, or at least for this episode, because really we've been talking about this for a couple weeks now.
More like months.
It feels like it. To pick songs that have some foreign language lyrics, so not necessarily entirely in a foreign language, but at least some foreign language lyrics. It was fun kicking around songs that maybe only had one or two foreign language words in them versus ones that were entirely in a foreign language. So I think we've got some good ones today, and almost all of them I feel like are entirely in a foreign language.
I think that's right. I think people by and large didn't game the system here.
Yeah. If anyone's close to it's maybe me.
Yeah, it might very well be you.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll get to that in a minute.
We'll be the judge of that later.
Are you going first, Bob?
I'll go ahead and get us started here.
Oh, look at you getting right after it. All right.
Yeah. And to kind of stay on topic here of not only foreign languages, but foreign wars, I'll kick off with my first song here, 99 Luftballons by Nena. So this is kind of an interesting song. I don't know if I've ever really listened to this song. And as I was trying to find songs, Krista was like, what about 99 Luftballons? I'm like, oh, yeah, I mean, no kidding. That's a perfect one. And then when I sat down and started researching it and looking at what the lyrics are about, it's about war. So it's kind of interesting once you start digging into the lyrics and looking at what the song is about. It's very apropos for what's happening right now in the world. But then you do get into the history of the song, and one of the things that's interesting is that the more popular version of this song was in German, even though they did record an English language version of it, which never did really well. And the band themselves regret that they made the song in English because the lyrics were changed to a certain extent to make them more lyrical in English, and they felt like some of the meaning of their song changed a little bit. And so that's kind of an interesting part of it. Now, when you go through and read the translated German lyrics, they're definitely slightly different from the English ones. I'm not sure which one of these versions I'm more familiar with. I feel like we probably heard the English one more on the radio, but then whenever you ran across the German one, that was always the preferred one somehow. I don't know about you guys.
It's funny what you said how they felt about the English version, because I thought I was always surprised that the English version, which clearly came second, was so well written and well metered and rhymed. Because I thought, well, if you're going to translate something, you're not always going to get a good poem out the other side. But I guess what you're saying is that they had to make significant changes to get there.
They did have to change the lyrics around a little bit, and they felt like it changed the little bit of the story that they were telling in there to get around to make the English lyrics work.
I thought it was also interesting in that rewrite, there's a bit of a discussion about the Cold War. It kind of like ends with it being like a nuclear war situation, which is not really what happens in the German version. So I just kind of thinking this song in the 80s when every miniseries and everything was about Russia and nuclear war and everything. I thought it was interesting that the English translation of this song went down that path ultimately.
I did run across a passage someplace that said that the band themselves had kind of felt like at some point it became like a protest song, and they hadn't really meant for it to be that way, and that somehow the band had started to get labeled as like a protest song band, and that was totally not what they were into, and that they kind of wondered, years and years later if that's something that kind of hurt their careers.
So you're saying the German version does not end in a war?
Well, so it does, but it's not.
It does.
It's not quite the same way as the English version.
I see.
I thought it was interesting when I was reading about this that actually the English language version didn't even chart here in the U.S.
Yeah.
And the German version recording was Nena's only U.S. hit. So it just goes to show you that even though the really smart marketing folks at the music labels like, oh, we need an English version for this to like connect here in North America. And it was a flop essentially.
Yeah. It got to number 2 on the Billboard Hot 100. And the only reason why it didn't get to number 1 is because Jump was out.
How are you going to beat that?
I can't beat that.
I mean, it's pretty difficult to beat Van Halen.
Kriegsminister gibt's nicht mehr und auch keine Düsenflieger. Heute zieh ich meine Runden, seh die Welt in Trümmern liegen, hab 'n Luftballon gefunden, denk an dich und lass ihn fliegen.
I think we talked about this on our movie episode.
Yeah.
Footloose was out, and I was a big Footloose champion, and other people in my grade liked 99 Red Balloons, and I was like, screw you, man, Footloose rules. So I had to come to this a little bit later once I shook off, because Footloose lost to this, I think. At the roller rink, Footloose would come on, but like when 99 Red Balloons came on, that place erupted. Cortland roller rink, baby.
And
I also remember the video to this too. Like, I think it really benefited from the beginnings of MTV.
yeah, without a doubt.
Wait, which roller rink were you at? In Cortland or Top of the Strip?
I had to be Cortland at the time. Yeah, I don't know if Top of the Strip was there.
Well, it got taken out by that tornado, I guess. So,
Right.
Yeah.
In 1985, a tornado knocked down Top of the Strip roller rink, signaling that the 70s needed to end in Warren, Ohio.
I think it was technically Niles.
Well,
It wasn't Niles, technically, yeah.
God, we didn't even have our own roller rink. We had to rely on Niles and Cortland.
yeah, right.
Yep.
We did.
No.
Yeah. Rough times. And we censored that, listeners. Anyway, back on track.
And
These carpetbaggers from Howland come to use our roller rink.
And I would be remiss if I didn't mention that one of my favorite versions of this song is the Februaries.
Oh, that was the only other bullet point I had for today, you bastard.
Yeah. I mean, how many times have we heard them play it and probably beat the crap out of each other while they were playing it?
I used to love Scott would always go, 99 drinks I have had. And every one a Vulcan mind probe.
So that's my first song, 99 Luftballons.
Can't go wrong. 1 for 1.
Yeah.
So my second song is Juliana Hatfield off the album Only Everything, and it's Fleur de Lis. This song is interesting because I don't think the lyrics particularly make a whole lot of sense. They're all in French, and they're pretty nonsensical. The only part of the song that isn't in French is that the very first line of the song is Juliana Hatfield saying, "Hey, can I get some bass?" Which is ironic because didn't she play the bass? So if anybody wanted some bass, wouldn't it be her that was providing the bass? I don't know. But then the rest of the song is this really weird song where she's talking about drinking orange juice. She kind of switches it up, and she wants to know if this person that she's singing to will ever love her by the end of the century. And then she's talking about eating chocolate bread. And then that's the end of the song. So it's kind of like, well, whatever. But it's got such, for me, the prototypical Juliana Hatfield sound of those albums that she did in the mid and late 90s. And to me, it just always stands out as a Juliana Hatfield song, even though it's in French.
It definitely sounded like the Pixies to me when it first came on.
Oh, yeah?
And it probably was that heavy bass when it kicks in.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
For sure.
I was riding my bike down the little Sea Pines path with the big high handlebars like a dork, rocking out to my 90s Pixie sounding. I like this song. This is great. I'd never heard it before.
Really?
It doesn't have any remarkable pedigree or anything like that, and it is kind of interesting that you find lots of reviews of Juliana Hatfield albums from these mid-90s albums that she did, and they're usually not very good. For whatever reason, critics just didn't gravitate towards her, and they thought that she got by more on her looks than her musical ability.
Did some old white guy write that?
I would guess so, because
Surely.
because I always think that these albums all rock. So I don't know.
That guy
This
can
song
take
rocks.
I know. That guy should just take
Yes.
his head and shove it way up his ass. 'Cause,
I mean,
I mean, come on.
It is kind of crazy that if you look up things for any of those, Become What You Are, Only Everything, the reviews for those albums are mixed, to say the least.
3 stars on All Music for this one. I only have Hey Babe, which is awesome, beginning to end.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I think definitely
For her.
part of her career, too, was once she got through the 90s, then she started playing in other people's bands or would do lots of, I guess you'd call them side projects. So she shows up all over the place and is still recording now, so...
Carla, you were in Indianapolis in 96, right?
I was.
95, 96 time period, right? This reminds me of driving to Indy to see you and Shelley.
Yeah.
This is kind of right in that wheelhouse. So I could give a shit what All Music says. Like, honestly, this album is really great. And you're right. No, there's no pedigree around this song, but it's just fun as shit and it rocks. And
Right.
sometimes we don't need to overthink music, right? Like, you turn it on.
Yeah.
You rock to this. It's great in a car, especially when you're driving west on the 70 between Columbus and Indianapolis, and there's absolutely nothing to look at.
Right.
And you get there quickly.
It is kind of funny.
This song is great for when you're suffering from sensory deprivation. That's a real high.
It's high praise.
Yeah.
That should get 5 stars right there, right? I did not get in a car accident driving to Indianapolis because of this song. So
Right.
fuck you, All Music.
You're feisty.
It's one of those things, too, where just the more you listen to it, you kind of pick up on the lyrics. And so you find yourself kind of singing along with it in French, even though you're not really. You're really just making the sounds of the lyrics because...
I appreciated that the words were rather simple. So after listening to it for a few times, I was like, oh, I do remember that word. And I'm like, wait, what? This doesn't make any sense.
Right.
Carl, it's a lot like the Faust song
Yes.
you're talking about.
But that's
I have
only
a toothache.
it's only because orange and orange is the same spelling in French or English. So.
Hey, I'll take what I can get.
Mark, say orange again, because that's the whole reason why I did this podcast.
Orange, c'est un orange.
Like a warm hug.
Watch out for that mic.
Oh. So that's my second song, Juliana Hatfield.
No,
So
I
my
liked
third,
it.
My third song, this is where we start to become, I guess, maybe bending the rules a little bit. So my third song is Psycho Killer by the Talking Heads.
Qu'est-ce que c'est?
Yeah, which is mostly in English, except for a little chunk of the bridge, which is in French. And the French part of this song was actually written by Tina Weymouth and not David Byrne. Tina was bilingual. She spoke French at home with her parents. So joking around as they were writing this song, they thought about writing a chunk of, or writing a song in French. And so she wrote this little chunk of the song, and then they wrote the rest of the song kind of around it, which is kind of interesting.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
The fa 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 part, is that French or English?
That's a good question.
We'll defer to Mark.
It's universal.
Right.
Yeah.
I believe it's language neutral.
Probably.
I mean, I don't fa fa fa. Isn't that like do re mi fa sol la ti do?
Or it could be like la la la, right?
Yeah, la 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 fa 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 da da da.
He sings it kind of French.
Yeah.
This song is off of their first album, Talking Heads 77. And to me, maybe it's the Talking Heads song. I mean, it's one that everybody knows. It shows up on many of their albums in multiple different versions. They recorded it in live versions for several different albums. To me, probably my favorite version of the song is from Stop Making Sense, just because it's fun to watch David Byrne walk out on stage with a drum machine essentially backing him and play the song as the rest
It's
of
like
the
a
band.
boombox, right?
Yeah, he brings a boombox out.
Yeah.
And it's a drum machine that's playing, but yeah, he comes out and he says, yeah, I want to play you guys this tape. And then he plays along with it, which is how David Byrne can you get, right?
Right.
This is one of my favorite songs. It's one of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame's 500 songs that shaped rock and roll.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's one of my favorites.
Réalisons mon espoir. Je me lance vers les bras au pied. Yeah, 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 yeah.
love this song. It's the first song I ever heard by the Talking Heads. My mother introduced me to the Talking Heads, believe it or not.
Wow.
French-Canadian woman that speaks broken English, but nonetheless. Interestingly enough, I was reading the first time it was actually performed was in 1974, which was the year I was born, and then the year it was released was the year my sister was born. So there's a lot of little link-ups here.
There you go.
And my mother's the one that introduced me to it. So take that. Wow. That's all I have to say about it. It's an amazing song.
So I got a cross-generational story for you. I'm just hanging out one night, and my Uncle Joe, who I think at least two of you have probably met, sends me a text from Florida. Hey, I was out walking, and this song came on. I thought of you. And then he like follows up quickly and says, "'Cause I know you like it."
Not that.
And then he follows up a third time, and not because you're a psycho. I'm like, I get it.
There is some debate about the song came out almost at the exact same time as the Son of Sam serial killings. And the song
I
is...
never thought about that, yeah.
David Byrne has talked about the fact that the lyrics are about a serial killer to a certain extent, but that the timing of it was purely coincidental, and that they had been working on this song for a number of years before it was actually released. So it was purely coincidental that it came out at the same time.
When you think about that song in 1977, how crazy different it was from anything else you would have heard on the radio.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things, too, where you hear bands that were really cutting their teeth at CBGBs. I feel like some of those bands kind of have this same kind of sound or feel, and it was definitely something very different than what you were hearing on the radio in the mid to late 70s. I mean, you could probably argue to a certain extent some of these bands that really were starting to make a lot of waves, no pun intended, as new wave kinds of bands, were definitely the foundation of alternative music, at least in the U.S.
When you figure they were kind of running in the circles of like television and some of those other bands that we've talked about in previous episodes, it's just they happen to get a little bit more commercial success compared to some of those other bands. So I think we tend to think of Talking Heads first.
Yeah, totally agree with you, Carla.
So there you go. Those are my 3 picks.
So just one final observation, Bob. You were saying that this may or may not be a foreign language song. I am 100% on board with it being a foreign language song, with every chorus and the bridge.
Yeah.
But I will say this is now our 3rd Talking Heads song in the playlist. We may need to wait a couple episodes before we add a 4th one.
I'm trying to get more and more of them in there.
I'm going to go full Trash Can Sinatras at some point. I'm just going to drop 3 of them in.
That's all right. I'm all for that. So who's up next? Is Mark up next?
Yeah, I guess so. It's my turn. I think that's kind of a hard follow-up. I mean, I like my songs, don't get me wrong, but I think my songs kind of sit in the same wheelhouse foreign language-wise. We seem to be kind of in a little bit of pocket of a lot of French. Newell, you were kind of French-inspired, eh? Oui, oui.
I guess so, yeah.
Why don't I stay on that? Let's continue the French for now, and then we'll make a harsh transition to something not so French. My first song, God, it makes me smile, is Ça plaine pour moi by Plastic Bertrand. This song is probably best known for its appearance in National Lampoon's European Vacation, which is probably the first time I ever heard it, but it was actually released in 1977. Heck, I don't know. I guess they genre it punk rock, but I mean, I guess as punk rock as the French can get, right? And I mean, it's got that musically, it definitely has that kind of punk rock sound to it. But then as soon as they start to sing, it doesn't feel so edgy any longer. But I was reading some folks describe it as parody punk and more to the side of new wave, even though it's listed in the punk rock genre.
I wrote that I thought this sounded like surf rock met new wave.
Yeah. There you go. So you're kind of right on. It's just like a really short 3-minute song. I dare anybody to say they're not toe tapping to the song and having a good time. I know,
totally.
Brad, you absolutely love this. It was kind of their only smash hit, especially within Europe. Not sure that it necessarily did much here in North America, although I think it made it into the Billboard Top 50.
They're a French band and not a Canadian band?
They are a French brand, yeah. The guy's name is Roger François Jouret. And
okay, so they are French.
But he's a Belgian-born guy. He was born in Brussels to a French father and a Ukrainian mother. So
Lots of ties this week.
Fitting. That was not planned. And then in 77, he had done some smaller kind of punk rock bands. And then 77, Plastic Bertrand was his solo career. And this song has been covered by several other bands. But again, I think most of us know it for its appearance in National Lampoon's European Vacation, but it's also appeared in 127 Hours, which was a Danny Boyle film from 2010. It was on The Wolf of Wall Street, just to name a few other movies that it has since appeared in. So that's my number one.
Bam bam, mon chat se place, j'ai sur mon lit à bouffer sa langue en buvant trop mon whisky. Quant à moi, peu dormi, vie débris, mais j'ai dû dormir dans la gouttière où j'ai eu un flash. En 4 couleurs. Allez hop, un matin, une louloute est venue chez moi, poupée de cellophane, cheveux chinois, un sparadrap, une gueule de bois, a bu ma bière dans un grand verre en caoutchouc, comme un indien dans son igloo. Ça plane pour moi, ça plane pour moi, ça plane pour moi, ça plane pour moi.
I'm super impressed you picked a song from the 70s.
Every so often, Carla, I'll just keep you on your toes.
So I must have heard this first European Vacation and maybe had it ringing in my head or memory compartment or something. But Mark, you sent me the Head Coaties version of it, which turned me onto that album with all the punk rock covers in it, which is fantastic. It's so good. Did I send you guys Jet Boy, Jet Girl? Did I send you that song?
I think so.
Maybe.
So it's got the same backing track. It's the same song, but with different vocals. It's an incredibly, well, for its time, it was obscene. I just kind of found it by accident because The Damned covered Jet Boy, Jet Girl, and I found it on Napster years ago. And so when I heard Ça plane pour moi, and I was like, wait a minute, that's the same song. It turns out they recorded Jet Boy, Jet Girl. The guy's name is Elton Morello. Is that what it is? Elton Motello. A couple months before, they had the backing track laid down. They just hadn't recorded the vocals for Ça plane pour moi. They used it for both songs. I don't know what the lyrics mean in Ça plane pour moi, but I'm guessing it's in a totally different vein. Jet Boy, Jet Girl, which is worth a listen for sure.
Well, essentially, Ça plane pour moi is just kind of an expression that sucks for me, essentially, is how that translates.
I thought he was claiming an airplane. I thought he was saying, I want that airplane.
That plane is for me.
Yeah. So, need to work on my French for sure.
Depends what circle you're rolling in. So
Right.
That's awesome. I like that version.
yeah,
That plane
that's
is
Brad's
for
version.
me. Yeah.
Yeah, so
This is a great song.
It is a great song, and it's fun. You can cut that out. Brad gave us a lecture before we started today to watch the because he's editing. So
Yeah, guys, the ums.
yeah, seriously.
Yeah.
That's because he got 47 texts from me about the ums.
Yeah.
on the last
Well,
edit.
They were all his and so
No, they were not. There were equal opportunity ums in that episode.
You say I say right. We all have our things, but
tomato,
yeah.
tomato, potato. Okay. Let's go. All right, let's move on.
We'll edit that too.
Yeah, good. My whole section is going to be edited out at this rate.
No, you're doing great.
Thanks.
You're doing great.
You too.
Keep it up. Keep up the good work.
That was a joke. So moving into my next two pick, we're going to switch countries. We're going to switch languages. We're going to get a little more harsh. And I think at least two of the four of us are going to get super excited because, I don't know, maybe I've finally just been broken down like a wild stallion. And
Wow.
Give yourself
now-
some credit there, why don't you?
and I'm
That
just...
coffee has really put you in a mood today.
I think we broke you more like a Shetland pony, but go ahead.
cattle dog.
Wild stallion, Mark Little.
I've been branded. So we moved to the German language.
Auf Deutsch.
Yeah. So what's interesting here is Brad was the only one of the three of us that took German as his foreign language classes in high school. The rest of us all took French, which was really cheating for me since I was fluent in it. But that's what Howland High School's education board gets for putting me in speech therapy for having an accent when I moved here. I'll just get you back with an easy A, bastards. No.
You just work the system. It's fine.
Yeah.
They didn't make your ums go away, though, so
Touche.
send them right back.
Also French.
Yeah, it's very French to say all the time, so piss off.
Oh.
Wait, huh?
Oh.
So my first song, both of these have a lot of roots into Carla and Brad's, I guess, first passion in life, which is Krautrock. So let's go with the original one that I had no idea was even linked in, although I do now. We're going to go with a song by Falco. How can you not love Falco? And I selected Der Kommissar, which translates as the commissioner. Probably not his most well-known song. We all know Rock Me Amadeus is probably all of our first song we've heard from him, but I've always loved Der Kommissar quite a bit, and this was recorded in 1981, so early 80s here, and this is considered New Deutsche Welle, right, Brad? Am I pronouncing that right? New Deutsche Welle?
I have no idea what you're talking about, but sorry, yeah.
Well, isn't the WV in German? I know that much,
yes, it is.
right?
Yes, it is.
So anyway, translating the New German Wave.
Oh.
That's what New Deutsche Welle stands for. So New German Wave, which has its roots in Krautrock, obviously. So,
Neue Deutsche Welle. Yeah.
So Falco was actually a Vienna-born singer, and again released this song in 1981. It's one of his top 2 hits, and it's predominantly in German. So that's my foreign language song. I'm not going to get too deep today on these. We know them. We love them. There's foreign language in it. It's Falco.
I love the bass line in this sense in this, obviously.
Yeah.
I mean, very much what Brad and I love to talk about.
I love the music video was pretty good for this song too. You know, he's like
This was a good video.
He's running in place to simulate running from the cops
Yeah.
and lip
The guy
syncing
is
the song.
hilarious.
Yeah, he's got
Yeah.
quite a sense of humor. I feel like all of their videos were pretty funny, to be honest.
Yeah, Rock Me Amadeus too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly.
No, this is good stuff. As I think I wrote in the text, you can't spell Falcon awesome without Falco.
I think you did say that. Yeah.
You did.
I'm quoting myself now. That's what I'm reduced to.
Preis. Sie sagt, Sugar Sweet, you got red to the heat. Ich verstehe, sie ist heiß. Sie sagt, babe, you know, I miss my funky friends, mein Jack und Joe und Jill. Mein Funkverständnis, ja, das reicht zur Not, ich überreiß, was sie jetzt will. Ich überleg bei mir, ihr Nasen spricht dafür, wäre das nicht noch Rauch? Die Special Places sind dir wohl bekannt, ich mein, sie fährt ja U-Bahn auch. Dort singen's. Radine dumm. Oh, oh. Schau, der Kommissar geht um. Oh, oh. Er wird dir anschauen und du weißt warum. Die Lebenslust bringt die um. Alles klar, Herr Kommissar.
Well, this song did reach #1 on the charts in every single German-speaking country in 1982.
How did it chart here in the States?
I think the album made Billboard's Top 100. Looks like its peak position in Canada was 12. Oh, U.S. Billboard Hot 100, #5, peak position. There you go.
It was done in English too, right? There was another band that did it in English.
I missed
Don't
that.
Turn Around. Uh-oh, the Commissar's in town. You remember that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
But I don't-
right.
I don't think that the lyrics are remotely the same, but I could be wrong.
One of the things that I think is funny about this song is every once in a while he sprinkles some English into it. And it might only be like half of a phrase in the song, too. Half of it's in English and half is in German, which I think is funny that he does kind of this weird back and forth between the two. Because you hear a line start in English and you're like, oh, it's in English. And then you're like 3 words were in English and now the rest of it's back to German.
Would you call this rap?
I feel like at the beginning he does rap a couple lines and he's talking about rapping in the song. So is it the first German rap song maybe?
Possibly.
Yeah.
I don't know.
He's like the stereo MCs of Germany.
Right.
And somewhere 4 other wonderful individuals that are our German counterparts are doing this exact mixtape Diaries, and this song was selected for having English in it
Right.
Right.
As a foreign language song.
as their foreign language song.
Right. They have 2 people who do a Southern rock podcast.
Right.
Don't come at me with your Almond Brothers again. Don't do it.
Was ist das? So we'll keep us moving here into my third pick. Carla, Brad,
Here it
keep
comes.
stay
Get ready.
calm, carry on. in true Mark Little fashion, I threw this at the group late last night as a quick
It was
keep
this
everybody
morning.
on their tour. No, it wasn't. Well, it might have been.
It was this morning for some of us.
Yeah, so I guess it was still evening in California, but
That's right.
time change. It was early AM, I guess. Brad was still awake though.
Because
So
he was eating hush puppies.
he wasn't eating them anymore. He was digesting them still.
It's like Sarlacc level digestion. It just goes on.
Just keeps
and
going
on
and going.
on.
This has true krautrock. I mean, true krautrock roots to it. And I figured if I was ever going to switch it up late on the group, this would be one I could sneak past because of its origins. I picked the band Grauzone and the song Eisbar, which translates as polar bear in German. This is their most successful single, charted number 12 in Germany, number 6 in Austria. And I have been a pretty, I guess, tough cookie when it comes to krautrock. I'm doing my best to lean into it. There's certainly...
tough cookie.
Yeah,
We got him to walk back from Wild Stallion.
yeah.
I was just a tough cookie.
I'm just a tough cookie now. Crumbling slowly in the dry air of California. But this band's origins are Switzerland. It's considered post-punk, new German wave, and definitely has krautrock links. I think what I'm learning about the krautrock and the origins or songs that are influenced or bands that are influenced by krautrock is I definitely tend to lean more in this realm of sound as well as like OMD. It feels better to me, like some of the super long, obscure instrumental stuff that's been thrown my way. I just can't get there. But this band, I just came across it in my exploration. I believe it was Faust that I was listening to. And then, on Apple, they always do this. People who listen to this also listen to this, which I love going down those rabbit holes. But anyway, Carla, you'd asked me before we went on air, how did I find this? And that's exactly how I found it. And I just, in true friend spirit, I was trying to find a connection with you all on krautrock. And so
I love that you're trying to bridge the gap.
I'm trying.
I really do give you credit for
trying.
that. Because
Feel
you're
like-
finding some very obscure things that I would have never found.
So this
But
band,
they're interesting.
yeah, it is. This song is from 1981. So I guess two of my songs were 81 and then in the 70s. So wow, I'm kind of on that cusp here. But I just really love this song. It's got enough electronic in it that seems familiar and comfortable to me that I was able to really enjoy this. And it's all in German. So it fit the bill. So there you go. Just trying to, bring an olive branch to the episode today. So.
Eisbären müssen nie weinen. Eisbären müssen nie weinen.
We'll accept that olive branch. Absolutely. This is... My first thought was, now is the time when sprockets when we dance.
Maybe that's why I like it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's sort of a Joy Division meets krautrock kind of thing. And a lot of those instrumental, weird sort of production elements that you hear on songs like Isolation that are trying to add this very cold kind of sheen to the music are applied here. That was good. It was interesting. I was playing it today and the lyrics were simple enough that I could get some of them. And I would like to be an ice bear or a polar bear. Polar bears must not cry. And I was thinking, this is like I Am a Rock, I Am an Island. This is like this is like Simon and Garfunkel meets
krautrock. Yeah.
yeah. Perfect. This is fun. I like this. Listen.
I like your sync up with Joy Division. I mean, I think that's just for me the way the guitar, drums, and synthesizers kind of go in the song. It seemed familiar enough to me and not this like really experimental, obscure noise that I hear a lot of times with krautrock that just I struggle with because it's just way out there. I can listen to like 7 minutes of a 23-minute song, but once I get past like the 7, I'm like, I can't take this anymore. It's too long. I guess for all you listeners that are trying to kind of ease your way into Krautrock, I think going straight into 23-minute Autobahn is maybe a bit too much. And this might be a nice launching pad into Krautrock because it's only a few minutes long, and then you can go from there. But that's
Yes, but there could be something amazing at that 15-minute, 30-second mark that you'd already turned it off and then you miss it.
I just can't
That's
get there.
what keeps
Carla.
you in there.
It's like 4 minutes and 17 seconds is about all I can handle. So.
That's what she said. I finally got one. Wow. I usually walk into them. I finally got one.
Wow. Oh, boy.
God. 14 on a good day.
Yeah.
So that's it for my selections on that note. So
one of the things that I just looked up here, not to go backwards a little bit, but the English version of Der Kommissar that I think we're also familiar with is by a band called After the Fire. It came out in 1982, it looks like. And I'm not digging into it too much right now, but I wonder if the lyrics are similar or not. That's up to you to decide, dear listener.
Sounds like a follow-up.
Maybe.
Sounds like a good Twitter debate.
Yeah. Your homework, shall you accept it, right. For extra credit is...
Right. Is it a different song or the same song?
There you go. Provocative, Newell.
Give us 500 words.
Right.
Or 280 characters. Exactly. Whichever comes first.
Go.
So who's next? Carla's next.
I guess that's me.
Yeah.
Well, my first song I locked in pretty quickly. I knew right away when Brad picked this theme that I wanted to talk about Seu Jorge, who's a Brazilian singer-songwriter and actor, and most of us are most familiar with him because he played troubadour deckhand Pele dos Santos in The Life Aquatic. And as part of that, he did Portuguese language covers of David Bowie classics. So the song I picked off that record is Rebel Rebel. And that is definitely one of my probably top 3 Wes Anderson movies. And it's really because of him. They just, in typical Wes Anderson fashion, put him in these like quirky places. And he just has his acoustic guitar and he's just like singing Queen Bitch or Rebel Rebel or China Girl, like all these truly classic David Bowie songs. So what's interesting is that each song, while it is a cover, they did rework them a bit. And I didn't go through the language translations to see what they all were, but they did rework them a little bit to be either representative of a character or whatever scene was happening in the movie. So it related a little bit more. I picked Rebel Rebel. It's my favorite reworking of that song. He took that very famous guitar riff and stripped it down into kind of a bossa nova. It has like a bossa nova sound to it. And he does that with a lot of these songs, which I just think makes it really a kind of a quiet but pretty record. It's one of those albums I love to listen to. Like, it's a good early like Sunday morning cup of coffee kind of an album because it's chill, but yet you know all the songs. So moda na gringa é Feliz Natal. Se equivocou, mas ficou tudo bem. Agora diz que está na onda zen. Hey baby, passe amanhã e pegue o que é seu. A maquiagem vai desmanchar para o seu medo aparecer. 0-0, agora eu vou. Você deu mole, então eu marco o gol. 0-0, você venceu. Passe amanhã e pegue o que é seu. He never met Bowie, and he was never really familiar with his music. He learned Rebel Rebel 15 minutes before he had to play it for the first time. So I thought that was kind of an interesting note. In an article I read about him, he grew up very poor in Brazil, and he didn't have money to buy music, let alone really have a lot of access to it. So one of the things he said was that he really didn't know any like early Bowie. He only knew like 80s Bowie, like Let's Dance and on. And anything they got in Brazil was always 5 years after whatever was popular in like in the US or Europe. So he never really knew what a lot of these songs were. They never met, but Bowie did go on later to say, and this was a quote, "Had Seu Jorge not recorded my songs in Portuguese, I would never have had this new level of beauty which he has imbued them with," end quote. So thought that was nice that ultimately he kind of approved of,
that's pretty cool,
of what Seu did, rearranging all of those songs. So this album came out in 2005. The movie came out in 2004. He didn't tour on it until 2016, which was really in honor of David Bowie. And his father also died a few days after David Bowie did. So in a lot of articles, he's quoted as saying that he decided to go on this tour just to kind of honor both men. I honestly couldn't find a whole lot about him after 2016. He is actually currently touring. He's doing a tour of Brazil and Portugal. He collaborated with Beck on the Mario C remix of Tropicalia. So whenever there's kind of a Brazilian bossa nova, he's kind of the modern version of that. So it's a quick one. I just love the song. I love this whole album, and I always think about this movie when I listen to it, and it's just fun and very Wes Anderson.
I feel like when we were kicking songs around, we all were finding songs from Wes Anderson films because he always pulls one or two into almost every movie that he does. So it is such a great song, and it's great to see him just pop up out of nowhere in the movie too.
That's my favorite part of it.
Like they'll just be like panning across a scene, and
he's just sitting on a rock with his guitar
on the bow of the boat. Just like
it's fantastic.
I just smiled. I mean, Carla hopped on this as soon as the theme came out. She's like, "I got this," and I was like, "Oh!" I mean, because I think we all were like, it's like we were playing Press Your Luck, and she got to the buzzer fastest.
It felt an obvious choice for all of us, and I was like, I want this one.
I don't have much else to say other than it's fantastic. I think I would have picked the same song, Carla, no surprise. And when you look at most downloaded songs by him, this one's at the top of the list, at least on the Apple algorithm. But there's not a bad one. Like that whole album is super fun, and I think this is perfect to have mixed in. On a mixtape, just kind of randomly. I think after like 2 or 3 songs, the album's great in the background, but I think these sprinkled in, especially since we all have a lot of respect for David Bowie. Some of us are a little more into him than others on this podcast, but none of us will argue that having versions of David Bowie sprinkled into a mixtape is pretty amazing.
So you guys are going to avalanche me. I've only seen The Life Aquatic once.
Oh my God.
I own it, and I think I've only watched it once, but this was the song that I remembered from it. And it's funny that it's the one that you picked, Carla. I remember hearing it thinking, I need to go out and hear the David Bowie version of this, right? You know how you hear the cover before the original and people are like, that's terrible. Yeah. So I went out, and that got me into the Bowie original, which we remarked a couple of weeks ago was issued on the day that Mark Little was born. Rebel Rebel.
That's true. That was my birthday. That was my birthday song from Brad.
You can't go wrong with that. That's a pretty great birthday song.
Very different, because usually you send me a different birthday song every year by Altered Images, but this year it was mixed up a little bit. So,
right, we'll have to add that one at some point. Have you guys listened to any Nouvelle Vague? Have you heard of them?
I have not.
Nouvelle Vague.
Maybe that's right. Maybe that's right. Yeah, they're like a bossa nova, Brazilian bossa nova band that does new wave covers. I bought one of their albums, and I mean they'll do anything. They'll do Dancing with Myself.
I think I have heard.
You
I think
definitely
that's
Love.
Yeah.
You definitely have, Carla. They're amazing.
Yeah, this just makes me think of that. But I love this song. I think this is one of my favorite Bowie songs. And
mine
this
too.
is just a great version of it.
Can we maybe back up a few feet and discuss the fact that
am I too hot on the mic? Is that what you're saying?
I'm about to be too hot on the mic. You've only seen The Life Aquatic once.
Yeah.
Can we address
every episode has to turn into a Wes Anderson episode?
It's because
we haven't talked about it for at least 2 episodes, so I guess
are there any,
maybe 3.
Are there any Talking Head songs on a Wes Anderson movie that we can hit?
I actually think there is.
Maybe talk about the weather a little bit. Oh God, let's get out of our rut.
Wes Anderson's so great, though.
Sorry, go ahead. You were beginning a sentence and I finished it.
You should just sit down and watch Life Aquatic.
I mean,
right.
It's just only because I care about you, Brad, and I feel like you're depriving yourself of glorious entertainment by only having
I love
watched...
me some Bill Murray, too. No, you're right.
It's so good.
You know what was crazy is, really, to go off on a tangent here, the NBA All-Star Game was in Cleveland, last weekend, and Bill fucking Murray was sitting on the sidelines of the All-Star game, and I was heartbroken that you could have been walking around in downtown Cleveland and seen Bill Murray just walking into the basketball game. I think I would have died right there on the sidewalk if I could have yelled at Bill Murray.
You know, the last time he was in Cleveland, Bob.
No.
Well, maybe it wasn't the last time, but the time I remember was him out on the field after Game 7 celebrating the Cubs.
Oh, well. You know.
Oh, that's right.
I love him so much, but in that moment, I was capable of anything in that moment.
We were a house divided during those 7 games over here.
Yeah.
All right. What's your next one, Carla?
So we're going to go back to France for my second song, and I picked Andy by Rita Mitsouko. I have no idea where Susan Heilman and I discovered Rita Mitsouko, but we were obsessed with them in high school, like obsessed. And this was
crazy.
The song. I'm wondering if maybe the video was on, because I went back and watched the videos for Andy and C'est Comme Ça, which was the other single off of the No Comprendo that kind of gave them some international acclaim. So maybe we found them there, but who knows how we found the cassette tapes. I had that in my car at all times. So they're a French pop rock group formed by Fred Chachin and Catherine Ringer. They were one of the most acclaimed musical acts in France. They fused a variety of styles, which I think you can kind of hear in Andy, but probably really more so in C'est Comme Ça, which, you know, there's a little punk, there's a lot of synth pop, there's some jazz, there's just some rock in there. So they really fused a lot of different genres together. They were super active really in the post-punk new wave pop scene. The No Comprendo came out in 86 and they formed in 79. So as I was researching them, I realized there were just a lot of strange connections to them to just other bands we've talked about. In particular, their debut single, which was on another record, was produced by legendary Krautrock producer Connie Plank. I texted Brad and was like, all my worlds have come together. The circle is closed. So, Brad, I sent you that song last night. It's like very Connie Plank synthesizer heavy. Once you hear it, you know right away that that's who probably produced it. But the No Comprendo and then the album after this one were produced by Tony Visconti. So no slouch in the production world there. He did a lot of Bowie's work. He's known probably most for Bowie but also T-Rex. He produced the Moody Blues, and then, you know, more recently he's worked with bands like the Dandy Warhols. And so, I mean, right away they worked with some pretty amazing producers right out of the gate. They were on a tour and the band Sparks saw them and really liked them, and they ultimately ended up doing a duet with Sparks. I kept finding a lot of videos for that on YouTube, but they were all in French. So, Mark, I just need you to translate all that for me. Because none of them had subtitles. Sparks is an interesting band on their own, and we don't have to go down that rabbit hole, but I didn't know anything about them until I listened to 1001 Albums podcast episode about them, and interesting experimental band. So hearing that they linked up with Rita Mitsouko didn't really surprise me. They collaborated with Iggy Pop at one point. They had 7 albums in total, and then Fred Chachin actually passed away in 2007. He had cancer. It was one of those, he had been diagnosed, and 2 months later he passed away. So Catherine Ringer continued. They were actually on tour when that happened, and she actually did continue the tour and finished the tour on her own as a tribute to him. But
wow, so he died of cancer while they were on tour.
Because he was only sick for like 2 months. Like, he had been sick and then he was diagnosed with it, and they just kept touring, and then he just got too sick and he passed away. So she put out a solo album in 2011. Catherine Ringer did. And I think one of the noteworthy things on that record is that she worked with RZA from Wu-Tang on one of the tracks, which features John Frusciante from the Red Hot Chili Peppers on guitar. So
it's like, what?
It's so crazy. Yeah. I mean, you know, I've always loved this band and loved this song, but I never ever Googled them until now. And so I was like, oh my gosh, there's so much. They were so connected, really, with all these producers and different artists. And it was an interesting story.
When was she recording with John Frusciante?
2011. That record came out in 2011, so probably 2010. Andy is a silly song. If you look at the Bob, like the one song that you had, they're kind of nonsensical words about this guy named Andy. It's like, hey, you're Andy. Like, it was, my friend told me you were Andy. Like, it's just this weird, very simple French song. So it's just fun.
Dis-moi oui, Andy. Shoot, Andy. Dis-lui oui, Andy. Dis-lui oui, Andy. Sois gentil cette fois-ci. Dans ce garde, Andy.
I could be just out there, but for me, when it first came on, I got a lot of Morris Day in the time.
It's a little funky.
Yeah. Moves your shoulders.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I'd never heard this. I mean, I was like, what the hell? In true Carla fashion, like pulling something out of the air that I mean, really, not only did I really enjoy this song, it's been fun to just kind of go into the catalog a little bit. It's super fun and really pretty catchy stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's so Carla to be like, I'm listening to this band you never heard of, but I've also been listening to it since high school.
Since they
Yeah.
came out.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, I'm thinking there's no way there was this on the racks. Like, I knew what was in the racks at Musicland or NRM at the mall. Yeah, I'm wondering, like, did you go on some trip to France?
I know.
Some
Well,
cultural summer trip?
So,
for
well,
school?
we did go to Europe after that summer we graduated high school. So the only thing I can think is that when we were in England or France that we found it somewhere. Because I don't know how else I would have had the cassette. I know for sure I had the cassette tape of it.
Wow.
But I don't know, it's random.
It's pulling from everywhere. It really is pulling from everywhere.
And now that I've read more about them, I think I want to dive a little deeper into their catalog because honestly, this was the only record I'd really ever listened to, like on repeat. Mark especially, I can't believe you've never heard it. I always had it on in my car, like always. Well, I really reached on my third one, guys. I did not know this song prior to a few weeks ago. I'm not entirely sure I can pronounce the name. It is in Swahili, so...
Wait till you hear
I-
who sings it.
Yeah. I had another Brazilian artist that I was really leaning towards, but then I just didn't want to have two songs that were similar in nature, and I really didn't want to give up Seu Jorge. So I started kind of researching some stuff, and I came across this song, the debut single for Bananarama.
Which
And
is insane.
Yeah.
And it is called Aia Moana. I'm not going to say that again. We're going to assume
I
that
think
is
that's good.
moderately correct.
Yeah.
I got no problem with that.
Yeah.
I can't quibble.
So, it was actually a single, so it was truly their debut single. Ultimately, it ended up on their first record, which is Deep Sea Skiving, but it only was on the UK version. This song was originally written by a French-Belgian writing and production team. It was featured on some Japanese dance record, and then later it was re-recorded by a band named Black Blood in Swahili, and that's the version that Bananarama decided to sing. And the Swahili version was actually a hit in Belgium and France. So the tropical nature of the song inspired the band's name. So like kind of as I started reading about it, there were some weird little notes about it that really inspired the band. So Banana came from the tropical nature of this song. Rama was a nod to the Roxy Music song Pajamarama. So that's how we get Bananarama. But you guys know how much I love like Afrobeat or anything with kind of like a Latin nature to it, and this song really had it, so that's why I stuck with it.
Moana,
Bananarama were friends with Paul Cook from the Sex Pistols and also Malcolm McLaren, and it was Paul Cook who really encouraged them to release a single, and this is the one that we got. I was at the record store here a couple weeks ago, and I actually found this album in the racks, and it was $3, and I couldn't not buy it, but it is the US version, which does not have this song on it. The song was only on the UK version. And the rest of the record's not that great. I mean, it was worth $3, but it was really not that great.
It's got Cruel Summer on it, or is
no,
it?
No. This is before. This is before, way before Cruel Summer and Venus and all of that, like all the Bananarama that we know. And it's a strange mix of. Some of it's very like bubblegum pop. You could see why this was actually a standalone single at first, because it doesn't really jive with the rest of the record really at all. But then it's a lot of just mixed genres happening on that album. I think they were still probably really just trying to figure out what their sound was going to be. I mean, ultimately, they were massive and very successful. They sold over 40 million records at their prime. They had product endorsements and all kinds of things. I mean, I think that's why we really remember them during that Cruel Summer era. They had a pretty nasty breakup. Had I researched this earlier, I could have had them in the last episode. Siobhan Fahey, and I may be mispronouncing that.
Fahey, yeah.
Faye ultimately left the band and started Shakespeare's Sister, but in many of the articles I read, it talks about just she was very difficult to work with in the studio and producers had a hard time with her. And I think it kind of sounded like maybe her vision of where she wanted the band to go was just not what was happening. And that's when she left and started Shakespeare's Sister. But two other little noteworthy things I found was that Karen Woodward was married to Andrew Widgley from Wham. Like, I didn't know any of this stuff. And Siobhan was married to Dave Stewart from the Eurythmics.
They were plugged in.
They were very plugged in.
Small world.
In 2017, they ended a 30-year feud to go out on a reunion tour, like most of these bands do.
It's called I Ran Out of Money.
Yes. So anyway, those are just my notes on Bananarama, but I really do like this song. It's fun. I kind of like it in a playlist. It'll be fun to kind of pop up. It's different.
I'm going to say something that it's going to set you off, Carla, but this sounds to me a lot like late era Bow Wow Wow. And I don't think you like Bow Wow Wow.
I don't love Bow Wow Wow, but I can hear that.
Yeah.
The rest of the record, now that you say that, has a little bit more of that vibe to it.
Yeah.
Wait,
too.
Bow Wow Wow, like Snoop Dogg? Bow wow wow, yippee yo, yippee yay, roll in the motherfucking.
That's different.
No,
It's
wrong.
Different.
Okay.
Wrong. Bow Wow Wow.
Sorry, I'm still on the Super Bowl halftime show, so like it's been high in rotation.
I like that you grabbed that opportunity and took hold of it. Right, we all benefited from that.
So good. This song is fun. I think that's the best word to put it. And I have learned so much in the last 5 minutes about Bananarama that I never knew, because I didn't really know anything beyond Cruel Summer, to be honest. And this has opened up exploration for me on Bananarama, because I think that's all for me, that's all I ever knew Bananarama was.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest. I hate that Venus cover. Ugh.
Oh, really?
What?
Yeah, I do not like it. I think because it's one of those songs that always got so overplayed. Like, and now to think about it, I'm like, ugh, I don't want to listen to that song. Right. I do love Cruel Summer, but I never really thought about them past those two songs.
We were hanging out in the Poconos last summer. I had my whole extended family together. And we spent one night just down in the basement queuing up old 80s videos on YouTube. And my uncle just went down a Bananarama rabbit hole. And he was finding stuff like from the late 80s. I got to say, it was kind of tough. I Heard a Rumor, I think, was one of the songs. I had no memory of that.
Say you got a broken heart.
There you go.
I love that song.
Well, so I'm, of course, parked on their Wikipedia page right now, and it says that they did backing vocals for bands like Subway Sect, the Nipple Erectors, which was Shane MacGowan's first band, The Jam, the Monochrome Set, like all of these heavy post-punk bands. And then by the end of the 80s, it was I Heard a Rumor, which I think is what happened to all of us, really, right?
Yeah.
Our ties just got fatter.
And then Shakespeare's Sister.
Yeah.
Yikes.
Yeah.
Now we're in Lilith Fair, Carla's favorite subject.
I was not into, needless to say, I was not into Shakespeare's Sister. But
that shocks me.
He says ironically.
Don't you think? It's like rain. Okay. Well, close us out. Transition before we get into Lilith Fair.
Please.
Before Mark
that's
just
it.
keeps going.
Those are my 3.
Give me an opening to go Lilith Fair. I'm in.
Good Lord. All right.
We gave you your episode on that. We're done.
That's what you thought.
So, Brad, why don't you wrap us up here with your 3 selections?
So you guys may remember when I announced this theme, I locked my songs up right away. I knew what I wanted to do.
He was premeditated.
It totally was. And then after that, there were like 15 other things that I wanted to do, but I held on. So I'm going to start with a song in Punjabi. It is 6 a.m. Jalandhar Sheer. I don't know if I got that right at all. By Cornershop from 1995. Who here has Cornershop albums? Hands in the air?
Probably.
Carla? I've got 2. I've got When I Was Born for the 7th Time. That's the one with Brimful of Asha on it from 97.
That's the one I have.
Yeah, that's probably what I've got.
That one came out, Height of Britpop was the closest they came to really breaking out, right? It had the Fatboy Slim remix that came out. Yeah, very good. And I had the one after that, Hand Cream for a Generation, which came out in 2001. I love these albums. I feel like I should buy more of them. They just draw on all kinds of influences and they pull them all in, they mix them up. I think, as I said before, you could get Voltron out of it or you get a pile of Cars, right? And this is definitely Voltron. They're an indie band, right? So they draw on the Velvet Underground. They're a Britpop band. You hear the Stones and the Kinks in there. There's always, or very often, a kind of hip-hop beat underlying it. They'll do some funky stuff. There's all this Eastern psychedelia. And through all the albums I've heard, at least, a big nod to Punjabi folk music, which is what you hear in this song. Core of this band is Tajinder Singh and Ben Ayres, lifelong friends, it seems, and partners through 30-plus years now as musicians, right? A lot of these Britpop bands came up and disappeared. They released yet another fairly well-received, at least by the critics, album in 2020, which Carl and I kicked around a little bit, I think, late last year. 6 a.m. Jalandhar Sheer is sung in Punjabi. It's not on either of the albums I have. There are Punjabi songs on those, and I thought about pulling them. We're in Your Corner and Spectral Mornings, really great songs. It always seems like I'm attracted to the songs on those albums where he's singing in Punjabi. But this is the one I chose. It's on the album Woman's Gotta Have It. And I picked it because I saw it played live, and I just loved it. Saw these guys in 1998. I went and looked up the date on setlist.fm. January 9, 1998, they opened for Oasis at the gym of George Mason University in Virginia.
What?
Yeah, insane. It was. Yeah, and this song was the best. And I hate to say it, guys, but it was really kind of the last good thing I saw that night because Oasis came on and they just, like, I haven't seen them since. They blew the doors off the other times I saw them, but not this time. This track is exotic and beautiful, traditional and rocking, folk music with a beat. There's always a good beat with this band. It sounds like he's singing through a bullhorn here. I'm always a sucker for that, right? REM. I could turn you inside out. I think I hear a little ring modulator in here.
Oh, boy.
I think there really are oscillators, yeah.
I can't tell the difference. We're gonna get Rieger to set us straight on this. I'm rapidly becoming a sucker for laser beam sounds and songs.
And good ring modulation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I found the English translation of the lyrics, and it's beautiful. It reads like a prayer. Just beautiful stuff, like spiritual, moving. I'm the least spiritual person you're ever going to meet, but if something is going to kind of reach me and move me in that way, it's going to be music. And this song is tremendous. I play it, and I think somewhere George Harrison is smiling ear to ear, and I am too.
I think this song gets better as it keeps going. It's almost like two songs, right? Because there's like a whole part where he is singing, and then you have the latter part of the song, and it just keeps going. Like, just keeps getting better. I wrote this song has everything I like. It has sitars, a Motorix style beat, oscillators or ring modulators, and unrecognizable words.
Everything Carla loves.
Everything I love.
Yeah.
I felt this was similar to like some of those Krautrock songs. It was like sensory overload for me at first, not in a negative way, and it was so
Lots of
different.
process.
Yeah, and it was so different from how I knew this band to be, because I know them from Brimful of Asha in that 97 debut, and that's about as far as I've ever gone with them. So hearing you and your general excitement for this band makes me think I've shorted myself over the years, not diving a little bit deeper into the catalog. So I enjoyed this, but it took me a couple listens and like having it on while I was cooking and doing other things because it was just too much. And then the other night I fell asleep to it on. So it was peaceful enough. I came to peacefulness with it to the point where I could fall asleep to it, not because I was bored, just because it relaxed me. So.
In the interviews I've seen them give, most recently off this last album, the theme keeps coming up. One or the other, these two guys says, we did Brimful of Asha and it hit. The remix was huge. That's never really been what we're about, but it's what people remember us for. And so they've kind of had to struggle to overcome that. It seems like the first minute of this, it's almost like a public announcement read over a loudspeaker, but you don't know what he's saying. So you're like, get on with it. Come on.
I think that's what got me at first. I'm like, here we go.
Interestingly, they Rough Trade did a compilation of all their best stuff that they released over the years. And this song was on it. And I thought, that's great. That's great that they picked that song and not necessarily Brimful of Asha. And it really is like, it should be in the time capsule of stuff that this label did. I later read that Ben Ayers is a publicist for Rough Trade. So there may have been a little bit of a conflict of interest.
There's a good choice he made.
Yeah.
I like that this song opens the album, and then it is also a version of it is the closer of the album, being 7:20 a.m. Julie Undershare is the last
that right?
song on the record.
I need to just listen to the album then, because I've never. That's great. So moving on, Sigur Ros. The song is Ara Batur, and I'm sure I didn't get any of those 4 words correctly pronounced. There's
a lot of accents.
I'm waiting for someone to correct me, but no one speaks Icelandic.
I have a coworker we could bring in.
Can you, what's the name of the album?
Oh, I have it written out here, and I was going to say it, so grab hold of something.
The name of the album is insane.
This is an Icelandic band. This is from their 5th album, Með suð í eyrum við spilum endalaust.
Sure.
Meaning, with a buzz in our ears, we play endlessly, which I think is awesome and kind of defining of Sigur Ros.
Yeah.
Were you doing the German translation of the album name?
You know what? The languages aren't as far apart as you'd think. Like when you fly on Iceland Air, you see all of the little posted bulletin things are written in German, English, Icelandic. It's like a little Rosetta Stone, you know?
Yeah.
And it's not crazy far from German. But so another Icelandic band that I love. I have just this album and then the real big breakthrough album, Agitis Byrjun.
Oh, yeah?
That one. I think I have that one too.
Yeah. That has Starulfur on it.
Oh, yeah.
Well, here's the thing. All you Wes Anderson people. I was thinking about picking that one, and then I went with this song instead. And then looking back, I saw Starulfur is on the Life Aquatic soundtrack.
Huh.
It's playing when they're pulling a shark or something out of the water. I don't know.
Maybe.
Anyway, this album was trying to be a bit more mainstream, and there are a couple of pop songs that drop in under the 4-minute, 17-second attention span. I'm looking at you, Mark. You probably crapped out in the middle of this one. I did a lot of long songs today.
Yeah, you did.
I was trying to claim some real estate on this playlist. The best Sigur Ros songs hit me in much the same way as many of my favorite James songs do. They're like 2 parts beautiful, 2 parts really powerful, 1 part just flat out weird, right? And they build to a smashing climax, and that happens on this song. For all the trying that they did to get radio play with this album, the 2 songs that I like best are the 2 most ambitious. That's Festival and Ara Batur. They're both around 9 minutes long. They're both slow burns, and then they really just build massively toward the end. I have a tendency, and I did this yesterday, in fact, to put this album on my headphones as I'm on an airplane waiting for it to take off. And I'm convinced, by the way, that they would lower the air pressure to make you docile during takeoff, because I always fall asleep. They're like up there waving their arms about how to put on the seatbelt, and I'm like, and maybe by the time we hit like 50,000 feet, I might wake up.
That was 86 Hush Puppies.
Yes. I think it was the Hush Puppies.
Maybe it was.
That's what made you sleepy.
I ate 86 hush puppies and put on Sigur Ros. That's the closest I get to a psychedelic experience.
It's a good thing you weren't driving.
So true to form, like we're finally take off. This song like builds up and the cymbals hit, and I'm like up like a start. The tray table snaps down, and I'm like, okay, what's going on? Where are we?
Your hush puppies wore off.
Yeah, well, this shakes them right out of you. Terrific video on YouTube that I think I sent you where the band is at Abbey Road with an orchestra backing them, and Jonsi, who's the lead vocalist, is singing this song. His vocal style, and maybe this is just what you get from Iceland, is alien, otherworldly, and beautiful. Although in this song he hits the falsetto so high that the notes drop out. Anyway, they're touring, it turns out. I bought tickets for them last week. They're coming to Boston in June. I'm very excited about that.
Have you seen them before?
No, never.
Yo, you were in for a treat.
I'm excited. They're playing at
They're amazing.
They're playing at like the Wang Theater where we saw Smartless. It's like a sit-down kind of button-down venue. Yeah, I'm pretty jazzed about it. Just getting back to real life, you know?
They're coming to LA in May. I've never seen them, so I might have to. Carla, they're coming to Nashville as well. They're going to be there in, I believe, May as well. And
look.
They're playing at the Ryman.
I'll get tickets to that show. Yeah. That they will be incredible in the Ryman. I mean, I saw them on a Lollapalooza in Chicago, probably 2013, 14-ish. They're magical live. I mean, if they could carry that emotion in a huge, massive festival, I can't even imagine what it's like in a smaller theater. I always love those Lolla sets between like 3 and 5 because they were like sort of like a magic hour at the festival. There were always just like really cool bands during that time, and everyone's still like kind of chill. And to watch like almost 70,000 people, like you could hear a pin drop in Grant Park. Everyone was just laser focused on them because it was so amazing. His vocal, the music, everything. I will never forget that set. It was one of the best ones I'd ever seen.
I'm excited.
They're so good.
I'm excited. It seems like it has all the qualities of the James shows that I will like travel to the four corners of the world to see. So, all right. So number 3, I finally landed a Stereolab song, guys. This is Low Boob Oscillator, 1995, off of Refried Ectoplasm. About 15 years ago, I've kind of always circled around Stereolab. About 15 years ago, I lost my mind, and I spent like 18 months in a row like listening to nothing.
I remember that.
But Stereolab, and it wasn't even like I bought all their albums because I don't have all their albums. I just played relentlessly. I'd done this a little bit with the Pogues 10 years before that. I went all Irish music for a while in the Pogues. Sometimes I'll drop everything and listen to REM for like 6 weeks on end because like why not, right?
See Stone Roses, see the Smiths. I mean, This is like kind of your MO, Brett.
Yeah, maybe. But I've never binged quite like I did with Stereolab. And it was in that way that like 10 years too late. Because if I had gotten into them, like what they did between 94 and 97 is just mind-blowing. And I was not into them then. I just blew it, missed it. But those 3 studio LPs, Mars Zodiac Quintet, Emperor Tomato Ketchup, and Dots and Loops, every one of those is probably like a top 50 record for me. And from each one to the next, they like completely like overhauled their sound, did something totally different. And then in between in 95, they dropped this compilation record, Refried Ectoplasm, loaded with singles and B-sides that alone would have been product enough to put out in that 3-year period. And you'd have been, this is a productive and crazy good band. At the center of the band is Englishman Tim Gain, formerly of strident Marxist indie rockers McCarthy. Has anybody ever listened to McCarthy?
No.
Kate's cousin got me, she sent me the full McCarthy box set. I got everything McCarthy ever put out if you want it. It's pretty good stuff, but it's really just indie rock. So he meets up with Laetitia Sadier at a McCarthy show in Paris. and they sort of form the core of Stereolab. Really hard to encapsulate what this band's sound and aesthetic are like. I mean, I could go on. I could go on. I could enthuse for quite a while. Maybe the best way to say it is they sound like the future as projected from the 1960s, right? Or as they put it in one of their album titles, Space Age Bachelor Pad Music. I just love that. I just eat that up, right? It's all these fun electronics layered onto 60s bubblegum Europop. That's perfect for me. That's like made for me. Over the last year, as I've been digging deeper and deeper into Krautrock, I'm coming to realize how much Stereolab must have been listening to these bands. And maybe I like it because Stereolab softened me to it. Yeah. I hear Noi, and I'm like, oh, well, that's Stereolab. I was playing Emperor Tomato Ketchup on the phone. On the phone. Actually, it was on my phone now that I think about it. As I was flying back yesterday, that's just a Krautrock album. It's basically a Krautrock album. There's a bunch of Noi in there. There's a bunch of Faust in there. But again, right, with this kind of French pop singer stuff and these beautiful harmonies overlaid on top from Mary Hansen. Love it. I picked Low Boob Oscillator for the playlist, as I said, off of Refried Ectoplasm, which I first ever saw in Bob's CD stacks years before I would ever spend a dime on a Stereolab record. So there he was. Just like, it's there. I don't need to tell you about it, Brad, even though it could change your life. I'm decades ahead of you. Living my life. This one checks all the boxes. It's a perfect example of what makes this band so important in my life. It's a lovely pop song sung beautifully in French by Letitia. She does some real syllable slamming in here, just cramming words. Like she does a verse kind of on meter, and then she does another verse with 3 times the words in it. Really well done. It's got Mary Hansen doing that kind of doo-wop meets Kraftwerk harmony in it. Boop, 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 boop. Boop, 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 boop. She made that band in ways that you wouldn't think too much about because she just kind of did that. She was killed in a bike accident in London in the early 2000s, which is horrible. They've got a Farfisa organ playing here, and the pop song goes along, and then it ends, and then they just play Noi for 3 minutes. They just
100% it is like a Noi song. Right.
It's like now we're going to play Noi for no other reason than we stopped playing the other song. It's got the Motorik beat and the wah-wah rhythm guitar. It's got a lot of smears of moog thrown over it for good measure, which maybe you wouldn't have heard with Noi. The song's a little schizophrenic, right? You've got your pop song A and then Krautrock song B, and we're just going to put them together. But Peanut Butter and Jelly work together, and I love both these things. So this is my song. I just adore this song.
A sweet organ jam, so I was in.
Yeah, it's the prototypical Stereolab song to me.
Yeah.
You hear it and you're like, yeah, this has everything that they've ever done mushed together into one song.
Yeah,
and it totally works too for them. So
they're playing here in LA in September.
Oh, that's crazy.
Stereolab.
Is that right?
There's a
Brad's on
Brad's looking at tickets right now.
Goes to Google.
Well, not only are they on the ticket, but Arctic Monkeys, 9 Inch Nails, Lord, King Cruel.
What's the date on that, Mark?
It's September 16th through the 18th. It's the Primavera Sound LA Festival, and they are on that ticket with a lot of people.
Wow.
Kim Gordon.
Squid.
Yeah, Mitski. It's a nice time of year out here in California.
There you go.
Mayhem's playing that on that ticket. Norwegian black metal stalwarts.
Yeah.
Oh, all right.
So anyway,
let's make a plan.
You say you'll go all corners of the world. Well, it's kind of
there you go.
Easy direct into.
Yeah.
So
how about that? Well, I'm glad I added this because
now you know.
Everything happens for a reason.
I wonder if Cornershop is touring. I wonder if I could see all 3 of these bands this year.
When I was researching the Cornershop song, I think it was either that or the Stereolab song, I found a Chicago Tribune article, and Cornershop opened for Stereolab in 1996 at the Chicago show.
Oh, there you go, Brad. You could have seen
Full
them both.
circle. Yeah.
Could have seen both of them.
If you'd have told me, Bob, if you'd have been like, I got this Refried Ectoplasm album, you need to listen to it.
It was just an album I had that I listened to. I mean, I'll send you a list of all of my albums.
Yeah. Come on, Bob.
Yeah.
What are you doing over there? Jesus.
Overdue.
Sorry,
I first heard this song in High Fidelity. I hadn't really heard Stereolab before until I saw that movie, and then they were playing it in the shop, I think, is the scene that it's in.
Same.
And then that's when I started diving into who they were.
It's a perfect record store clerk's song, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
Like
That
like
and-
ask me what's playing over the PA because I can't wait to tell you.
Right.
Yeah. That and Beta Band, right? That
Yeah,
whole scene where he
uh-huh.
puts the Beta
Yep.
Band on. He's like, I'm going to sell 5 of these in the next 5
Yes.
minutes. He puts Beta Band on and everybody just starts
Exactly.
screaming.
Yeah. Well, those are 3 solid choices, Brad.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks. I think that's a good 20 minutes of stuff, probably too.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, because each one
20,
of those
25
is-
minutes.
The short song is 6:24. So,
That's what I was after. I was trying to crowd everybody out.
well, you did it.
This is a good 12.
Yeah, it's a pretty solid picks this episode.
I think they're perfect for a mixtape, especially as this mixtape gets more and more robust. I mean, I'm not sure how often y'all go in and put some time into it, but I've been on the shuffle format of the mixtape now.
That's the way to do it.
And it's great. It's just great to have on. These will slot in nicely.
How do they break out by language? We've got 4 French. Is that right?
A couple German.
Couple German, an Icelandic. I was really trying to get Japanese in there, but I'm going to have to save that for a different episode.
Yeah, there were a couple options that could have popped
that
in.
didn't
for
make
that.
it.
That's what started to kind of break my will a little bit. There was a Shona Knife song I really wanted to do. There was an Os Mutantes song that I've discovered that entire band after I picked these 3 songs. And
I told you to slide that one in.
Yeah.
We'll get them in there.
I actually thought about pulling the Mark Little. I'm going to take a 4th here. I'm still kind of thinking about it. So maybe you guys want to wind this shit down.
Let's wind it down. Until next time.
Well, this has been a good solid 12, guys. So cool.
Awesome. We'll catch up with you guys soon. Oh, we got
We got
I
some
know,
little
never mind.
surprises coming up for you here shortly.
Yeah.
So
Surprise,
So
surprise.
make sure
We
you're
do.
subscribed.
The surprises may come before this, though. Is what I'm
Possibly.
realizing.
Yeah, well, then that makes it even more of a surprise.
That'll be
right?
even more.
Then it won't be a surprise
Right.
when you listen to this because you'll know what's happening.
Tell us how surprised you were when we surprised you before this.
All right, take it easy, guys.
Bye.
Bye-bye.